Members of the class of 2025 from down the street, across the country, and around the world. Around the world, just as it should be.
That was Alan Garber, the president of Harvard, speaking to the graduating class last week and getting a standing ovation for pushing back against the Trump administration's attempts to make the university bend the knee. The government has already withdrawn or frozen billions of dollars in federal funding for the school and threatened to revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status and tried to block its ability to enroll international students. Unlike other schools, Harvard has stood its ground, rightfully calling the extortion plot a violation of academic freedom as well as the First Amendment. In preliminary rulings, the courts have largely agreed with Harvard, but the consequences to medical and scientific research will be devastating, let alone sending the message to the world that America no longer wants you to send us your best and your brightest. But instead of spending my time this morning telling you why it's so anti-American and so counterproductive for Trump to try and blackmail Harvard, I'd rather stress why more institutions should follow Harvard's lead and fight back. In a little more than 100 days, Trump has adopted a mafia don persona and decided that for his political opponents, it's better to be feared than loved. Listen to what Trump said last week when Harvard resisted his demands to let his administration dictate their curriculum and academic freedom.
Harvard's got to behave themselves. Harvard is treating our country with great disrespect, and all they're doing is getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. They've got to behave themselves.
Trump went on to say he was doing this not just for America, but for Harvard's sake as well. How generous of him. Before Harvard stood their ground, there was a conga line of others who were threatened by Trump and chose retreat rather than valor. Major law firms were threatened with being frozen out of casework involving the federal government for the apparent crime of representing clients who filed lawsuits against Trump or hiring people who've opposed him, let alone criticized him. Now, forgetting the fact that Trump was in fact indicted 4 times for criminal acts and that a certain First Amendment ensures free speech in this country, these law firms knew full well that in any reading of the law, they were more than comfortably in safe harbor if they went to court over Trump's blatant abuse of power. But still, they dipped the knee. My media friends at the Washington Post, ABC, and now CBS Paramount have decided that crossing Trump isn't worth it and have either compromised themselves editorially or written Trump undeserved checks to protect themselves from regulatory blackmail. Other universities like Columbia have not shown the same fight as Harvard and allowed Trump and friends into their hallowed halls to limit his indiscriminate penalties. Even entertainers have drawn his wrath for, well, acting like citizens and exercising their basic right of calling it like it is. Bruce Springsteen, on his European tour, he called Trump corrupt, treasonous, and undermining democracy. Trump, as presidential as always, told the boss to, quote, shut his mouth or face the consequences. Springsteen wouldn't be bullied, and Trump has now called for, quote, major investigations into Bruce, Oprah, Beyonce, and Bono. All apparently because they had the temerity to criticize. Unless all semblance of a republic has vanished, it will represent yet another empty threat. But for the aforementioned people on this list who haven't chosen to follow Harvard's or Springsteen's lead, I believe they will live to regret it. Their regret will not only be in the scarlet letter of capitulation to their principles, but in the Pyrrhic victory that they may have won. All they did with Trump was establish a baseline. They showed weakness, and to any extortionist, let alone one with a willingness, if not eagerness, to destroy norms, Trump now sees blood in the water. Try asking anyone who ever worked with Trump in the New York days if he ever honored a deal or his word was worth a subway token. To the contrary, for those who forced Trump to confront them in a courtroom or in the court of public opinion, he is suddenly at risk of the very thing that he hates most. That's losing. So good for Harvard. Let's hope others follow their lead.